All right. Hello and welcome to Unacademy. My name is Aditi Bhatt, and I'll be taking your session on the daily legal current affairs, wherein we will be analyzing the Hindu newspaper. Sorry, I forgot to add the date here. So it's 20th May. I'll correct it right now. It's 20th May, right? So okay. Happens sometimes, editing errors. Anyway, so hello and welcome to an academy, and so we'll start with today's session. Okay, so we will be analyzing today's the Hindu newspaper. All right. Okay, so let's see. So before we proceed further, yes, just like every day, this is the link for my Telegram channel. You can join my Telegram channel for regular class related updates, right? Wherein I'm sharing the links for the YouTube sessions. I'm also sharing the PDF of the Hindu newspaper for those students who do not have a newspaper subscription, and so that they can easily refer to, they can read the newspaper and also attend the classes, and so that they are able to relate with what I am talking about in the sessions. Also, I am planning to so basically currently I am working on a draft wherein I am compiling on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. Basically, I am compiling all the important events that have occurred and the related concepts from CLAT perspective, and then notes. All right, so if in case you have missed anything, you will be able to get all those features in the Telegram. Once the document, once it is ready, I'll be publishing it in the Telegram group. All right, and another thing that I'm planning is the days when you don't get a newspaper. So for example, just after a national holiday, you have those days, right, when you don't when the newspaper doesn't come, right? It's media holiday also. So that on those days we will be talking about some important concepts. Okay, some important issues we will be discussing. On those days we will be focusing on issues, and of course we will also be revising certain important points that have, or certain news which have lately been highlighted. Okay. ठीक है, and all right, so you can join my Telegram channel using the link that's given here, or you can even scan the barcode. And if you're planning to take on any of the subscriptions provided on the Unacademy platform, then you can unlock free classes and subscription discounts by using the referral code ABCLAT. All right, so let's start with the session today. Now, we will be covering 10 news items today. The first is uh, these are the highlights for today. The center reverses Supreme Court order, gives Lieutenant General final say on bureaucrats. So we discussed, we have been in fact discussing, and this particular news item has been, this particular issue has been quite in news from in the recent days. क्या हो रहा है? There's this case that is going on between the Delhi Chief Minister and the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, right? So उनके पावर्स के बीच में बहुत सारा टसल हो रहा है, लाइक हु होल्ड्स मोर पावर, हु होल्ड्स लेस पावर, और स्पेसिफिक इश्यूज पे कौन ज्यादा पावर होल्ड करता है, राइट? इस पर्टिकुलर केस में सर्विसेज पे बात हो रही है, जो भी एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सर्विसेज होती हैं, जो भी ब्यूरोक्रेट्स होते हैं, ठीक है, जो भी गवर्नमेंट में रिक्रूट होते हैं, राइट, सर्विसेज में, तो पब्लिक एम्प्लॉयमेंट यानी गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉयमेंट में स्टेट लेवल पे, तो तो उनकी जो उनकी अपॉइंटमेंट, उनकी ट्रांसफर, उनके सारे डिसमिसल, ये सारी क्राइटेरियाज, ये सारे इश्यूज, who will be the authority to deal with all these matters, right? That has been recently decided by the Supreme Court, right? So we will be discussing about that, and what is the U-turn now in the judgment, in the case actually. Okay, so then second news item that we will be discussing is, why not conduct CLAT in regional languages? High Court asks NLUs. Okay, so this is related to your domain, right? Okay, so CLAT, this is related to CLAT, but it talks about regional languages. So yes, we will be discussing languages. So I have picked up that the regional language aspect from this particular news item, and we will be now revising the languages, okay, today, and the constitutional framework. Okay, then the third news item is, decide cases on Senior Citizen Act within 1 month, High Court to Tribunal. Okay, अभी कुछ time पहले we also discussed senior citizen related laws, ठीक है? that it is a welfare regulation, it is a welfare law. And so we will see कि exactly citizen senior citizen act में क्या है, constitution में कहाँ पे, what is the constitutional framework, we will also look into that. Okay. Acha, then NCM team visits Arunachal to look at disputed site. So NCM basically stands for National Commission for Minorities. Their team is currently visiting a site, a disputed religious site in Arunachal Pradesh. So there are over there the Buddhists claim that they have the authority over that particular religious site, and similarly the Sikhs. So there's a dispute between the Buddhists and Sikhs. We will not go into that news, but we will talk about what is National Commission for Minorities. Okay. Now, how Gujarat is working to become India's green hydrogen hub. Now, this is important from your environment law perspective. This such news items can also be asked from your GK point of view, right? Static GK as well as static legal GK. So both, in fact, and we will also look at India's green hydrogen mission, right? And marriage can be solemnized online, says Kerala High Court. So here, the news item talks about the Special Marriage Act. So we'll look into the SMA provisions related to SMA. And among the elite, India's presidency at the G20 gives it additional heft at the G7 summit. So currently, the G7 summit is going on in Japan. Okay. And Japan में अभी चल रही है अभी. Last year India was holding the presidency at the G20 summit, which was conducted in Bali, Indonesia. ठीक है. So see, we will give this news item a read. Now, tracking SDG progress the Bhopal way. So again, this is important from your GK perspective also, as well as from your environmental law perspective. Ki what are the sustainable development goals, and how has Bhopal featured recently, in the top, one of the top cities. देखो आप, you can actually point out, यहाँ पे स्टेट की बात हो रही है, गुजरात is becoming a good state model for green hydrogen hub, and here you can see Bhopal, which is a city. So Bhopal is becoming the ideal city model for sustainable development goals. ठीक है. So ये छोटे छोटे pointers हैं जिनको याद रखेंगे अगर, so it will really help you in even the GK part a lot. Okay. Acha. The next is Supreme Court back to its full strength of 34 as Chief Justice of India administers oath to two new judges. Yes, we are going to discuss in brief provisions related to Supreme Court in our constitution and what is the framework. Okay, and then 10th is independence of Supreme Court is integral to rule of law. Justice Joseph. So again, we will talk about the federal structure of our Indian Constitution and what is independence of Supreme Court, how it is important, right? Okay, so let's begin. So this is, see, this news item ये अभी बहुत दिनों से चर्चा में है, and अभी now what has happened is कि अभी तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने पिछले कुछ दिनों पहले बोला था कि दिल्ली चीफ मिनिस्टर के पास पावर होगी, यानी कि जो इलेक्टेड, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने अभी रिसेंटली जजमेंट दिया था कुछ दिनों पहले ही कि because Delhi government is the elected, that forms the elected representatives, right? They are elected representatives of the people. And that is why they should hold more power, since they are elected representatives in a democracy. That's why they should hold more power, and more in the sense that they should hold power and they should have authority over the bureaucracy, the bureaucrats, that is their appointment of services, and their transfer, their dismissal, so on and so forth. ठीक है. तो मतलब क्योंकि दिल्ली की जो सरकार है, दिल्ली की जो गवर्नमेंट है, वो दे बिलोंग टू द, और दे बेसिकली रिप्रेजेंट द इलेक्टेड, दे आर इलेक्टेड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स ऑफ द पीपल ऑफ दिल्ली. ठीक है. तो इस वजह से, बिकॉज उनको इलेक्ट करके जनता ने वहां पे पहुंचाया है, ठीक है, दिल्ली की सरकार बनाया है किसने? जनता ने बनाया है। तो क्योंकि वो इलेक्टेड है, दे रिप्रेजेंट द पीपल ऑफ दिल्ली एंड दे हैव बीन इलेक्टेड, सो दैट्स व्हाई दे शुड होल्ड पावर अपॉन द ब्यूरोक्रेट्स। बट अभी, और ये सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला था कुछ दिनों पहले, बट नाउ सेंटर हैज रिवर्स्ड द सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑर्डर stating that, and center has given the lieutenant governor the final say on bureaucrats. Lieutenant governor is basically the administrator of Delhi, NCT Delhi. जब हमने NCT Delhi के special status, NCT यानी कि नेशनल कैपिटल टेरिटरी ऑफ दिल्ली के स्पेशल स्टेटस की बात करी थी, राइट, आर्टिकल 239 ए में एनसीटी ऑफ दिल्ली, नेशनल कैपिटल ऑफ दिल्ली वाज गिवन अ स्पेशल स्टेटस, ठीक है। इट इज नाइदर अ स्टेट, यू कैन से, मतलब उसमें स्टेट वाले पावर्स नहीं है, और एंड इट इज ऑल्सो डिफरेंट फ्रॉम अदर यूनियन टेरिटरीज, ठीक है। वहां पे ऐसा क्या है, दे हैव अ सेंट्रल एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर, सेंट्रल एक एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर है। हु इज द सेंट्रल एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर? दैट इज द लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल, लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल ऑफ दिल्ली, ठीक है। एंड the Delhi Legislative Assembly, I'll just write DLA, Delhi Legislative Assembly makes basically it has power to make laws on all the matters, given in the state list. जो जितने भी सब्जेक्ट मैटर्स हैं स्टेट लिस्ट में, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की जो स्टेट लिस्ट है, लिस्ट 2 ऑफ द 7th शेड्यूल ऑफ द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, उन सब में लॉज बना सकता है, एक्सेप्ट क्या? पब्लिक ऑर्डर, पुलिस एंड लैंड, राइट। तो लैंड, पुलिस और पब्लिक ऑर्डर को छोड़ के, ये 3 सब्जेक्ट मैटर्स को छोड़ के बाकी सारे चीजों पे दिल्ली की जो लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली है वो लॉ बना सकती है, ये एक स्पेशल स्टेटस है। और ये जो 3 चीजें, पब्लिक ऑर्डर, पुलिस एंड लैंड, इन तीनों पे कौन लॉ बनाएगा? लेफ्टिनेंट गवर्नर ऑफ दिल्ली विल डिसाइड, और बेसिकली द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, we can say the central government will make laws on these issues, these 3 issues, ठीक है। and so now the union government, तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जो अभी ऑर्डर आया था उसको सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने रिवर्स कर दिया है, ओके। The union government on Friday brought an ordinance, कैसे रिवर्स किया है? by bringing an ordinance designating the lieutenant general। अच्छा, एक चीज हुई थी, बिकॉज सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जब जजमेंट दिया था उस दिन, हमने बात की थी कल भी इसकी, कि जो ये है GNCTD एक्ट ऑफ, जो अमेंडमेंट एक्ट है 2021 की, जो अमेंडमेंट एक्ट है, ठीक है, तो इसको इनवैलिडेट नहीं किया था, सो इट इज स्टिल वैलिड, ठीक है, इट इज स्टिल वैलिड, इट स्टिल होल्ड्स वैलिडिटी। तो ये जो पार्लियामेंट का पास किया गया ये लेजिस्लेशन है, इट इज स्टिल वैलिड, ठीक है। एंड उसके अंडर आप ऑर्डिनेंस प्रोमलगेट कर सकते हो, इन प्रोमलगेट ऑर्डिनेंसेस अंडर दिस पर्टिकुलर एक्ट, ठीक है। ये इनवैलिडेट किया नहीं गया है, इवन दो इसके ये जो अमेंडमेंट एक्ट है, आई शुड राइट अमेंडमेंट आल्सो, सो अमेंडमेंट एक्ट जो ये है, उसके पीछे बहुत क्रिटिसिज्म है कि गिव्स मच मोर पावर टू द एलजी को ये बहुत ज्यादा एम्पावर करती है, ओवर ओवर एम्पावर करती है, यू कैन से इट गिव्स अ लॉट ऑफ पावर टू एलजी, ठीक है। And so that's why now union government has brought an ordinance designating the lieutenant governor as the administrator of the Delhi, with the final say on the postings and transfer of all bureaucrats serving the Delhi government। ये देखो एक important turn around हो गया, ठीक है। Now, the ordinance promulgated by President Draupadi Murmu seeks to amend. Now, of course, this is an ordinance promulgated by the president. President ordinance promulgate कर सकता है, president की power है ordinance promulgate करने की, this has been given under the constitution, president's power to promulgate ordinances, ठीक है। एंड ये ऑर्डिनेंसेस की जो लाइफ टाइम होता है, ये 6 मंथ्स की इनकी लाइफ टाइम होती है इन ऑर्डिनेंसेस की। 6 महीने में अगर जो दोनों हाउसेस है पार्लियामेंट के, यानी कि लोकसभा एंड राज्यसभा, विद इन 6 मंथ्स अगर दोनों हाउसेस से ये जो ऑर्डिनेंस पास हुआ है, इसको दोनों हाउसेस से अप्रूवल अगर नहीं मिलता है विद इन 6 मंथ्स, देन दिस ऑर्डिनेंस विल लैप्स, ordinance will lapse if it is not given approval. And if this ordinance is given approval by both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha within 6 months time, then this ordinance will continue or become an act, become a law. So this will continue or it will be made into a particular law. Okay. So the ordinance promulgated by President Draupadi Murmu seeks to amend the government of National Capital Territory of Delhi, that is the GNCTD Act of 1991, and effectively negates the May 11 Supreme Court. तो अब क्या किया कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजमेंट को नेगेट कर दिया। कैसे? ऑर्डिनेंस पास करके। वो ऑर्डिनेंस क्या करता है, जो अमेंडमेंट 2021 मतलब ये जो जीएनसीटीडी एक्ट है उसमें फर्दर चेंजेस करके उस लॉ को और स्ट्रॉन्ग बना दिया। एंड इट सो दैट लॉ बेसिकली नेगेट्स द सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट ऑल टुगेदर। ठीक है, दैट गेव अरविंद केजरीवाल और लेड आम आदमी पार्टी गवर्नमेंट द पावर टू मेक लॉज and wield control over bureaucrats deputed to the Delhi government. The ordinance seeks to establish for the first time the National Capital Civil Services Authority. Wow, this is a good thing. So see, this is a new thing rather. So National Capital Civil Services Authority, right? So you can also remember that अभी ये जीके पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से भी इम्पोर्टेंट हो सकता है कि व्हाट इज एनसीसीएसए, या फिर क्या अभी जो लेटेस्ट बॉडी कौन सी एस्टैब्लिश हुई है, सो दैट इज द नेशनल कैपिटल सिविल सर्विसेज अथॉरिटी एनसीसीएसए, which will be headed by the Chief Minister of Delhi. So ये जो body है that will be headed by the Chief Minister of Delhi, with the Chief Secretary and Principal Home Secretary of Delhi as its other two members. All matters required to be decided by the authority shall be decided by majority of votes. So all matters required to be decided by the authority shall be decided by majority of votes of the members present and voting. Right? And this ordinance issued by the Union Law Ministry. Okay, so this is what the entire game changes. Now they are talking about the national, so NCCSA, which is National Capital Services Authority of Delhi. So National Capital Civil Service Authority. All right. So remember the points that can be important for your GK point of view as well. ठीक है, and okay, so let's move on to another news item now. I hope this is clear. If you have any doubt or any questions, you can write it in the comment section below. Okay, Achha, now. Okay, now this news item is why not conduct CLAT in regional languages? High Court asks NLUs. The Delhi High Court on Friday questioned the consortium of national law universities why the common law admission test is conducted only in English when entrance examinations for medical and engineering courses can be held in regional languages. A bench of Chief Justice Satish Chandra Sharma and Justice Subramaniam Prasad granted 4 weeks to the consortium. Sorry, granted 4 weeks to the consortium to file its response to a petition filed by Delhi University law student seeking conduct of CLAT 2024 not only in English but also regional languages, yani ki Hindi or Marathi and all the languages, basically all the regional languages, and it is listed now. This matter is listed for hearing on July 7th, that is after the court break. Okay, after the summer break, right? CLAT 2024 is set to take place in December. Yes, you all are gearing up for CLAT 2024 in December. ठीक है, so अब बात कर लेते हैं languages की, since it has mentioned regional languages, so we'll talk about it. ठीक है, now languages are mentioned in 8th schedule of the Constitution of India. ठीक है, we all know that. You please remember that. and there are 22 languages in total. ठीक है? And we have articles. Again, you don't need to remember the articles, but I'm just mentioning them for your information. Three from Article 343 to Article 351, they deal with official languages, right? Um, and you also need to understand that there is no fixed criteria. There is no fixed criteria for any language to be considered for inclusion in 8th schedule. 8th schedule. ठीक है? Acha, let's see what all languages are there. So we have Assamese, Bengali, Gujarati, Hindi, Kannada, Kashmiri, Konkani, Malayalam, Manipuri, Marathi, Nepali, Udiya, Punjabi, Sanskrit, Sindhi, Tamil, Telugu, Urdu, Bodo, Santhali, Maithili and Dogri. तो ये जो last चार हैं ये भी recently नहीं, but they were added in 2003, 4 basically, 2003. ठीक है, 2003 में ऐड हुए थे बोडो बोडो संथाली डोगरी एंड मैथिली. They were added in the 92nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 2003. ठीक है, बाकी का भी देख लेते हैं. एंड इनिशियली जब हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बना था तब सिर्फ 14 लैंग्वेजेस थी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में. ठीक है, उसके बाद कौन कौन सी ऐड हुई हैं वो बात कर लेते हैं. सिंधी ऐड हुई 21st कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट से, 21st कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट से, जो कि 1967 में सिंधी को ऐड किया गया था. ठीक है, उसके बाद कोंकणी, मणिपुरी, नेपाली, ये 3 लैंग्वेजेस ऐड हुई हैं. कब हुई हैं ऐड? कोंकणी, मणिपुरी, नेपाली. देखो, सिंधी ऐड हुई 1967 में, कोंकणी, मणिपुरी, नेपाली ऐड हुई हैं 71st कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट ऑफ 1992 में. तो ये 1992 में ऐड हुई हैं. एंड देन आफ्टर दैट वी हैड बोडो डोगरी, मैथिली एंड संथाली. ठीक है, these were added in 2003. तो 1967, 1992 and 2003, ये 3 बार languages ऐड हुई हैं. and currently we have 22 languages in our schedule 8 of the Constitution of India. और कौन सी languages है? बहुत सारी ऐसी languages है, बहुत सारे demands हैं. there are a lot of demands for languages, for inclusion of languages in the 8th schedule. तो यहाँ 38 languages अभी ये कह सकते हैं कि उनकी डिमांड्स अभी रखी जा चुकी हैं. 38 languages are being demanded to be included in 8th schedule. Which are those languages? We have अंगिका, बंजारा, बजिका, भोजपुरी, भोटिया, बुंदेलखंडी, छत्तीसगढ़ी. Then we have Gondi, Gujjari, Kachhi, Ho, Khasi. Then we also have Purak, Lepcha, Mizo, Magahi, Nicobaris, Pahadi, Nagpuri, Himachali, Pali, Rajasthani, Sambalpuri, शोरसेनी, प्राकृत, तुलु, सायरिकी और ठीक है, बहुत सारी इनफैक्ट लैंग्वेजेस है, many of which I cannot even pronounce. So anyway, you need to know कि बहुत सारी अभी ऐड होनी, because India is such a diverse country. इंडिया में इतनी सारी भाषाएं हैं, और सिर्फ not just languages, हर थोड़े थोड़े डिस्टेंस पे आपको चेंज मिलेगा, लैंग्वेज वो बोली में आपको फर्क पता चलेगा, थोड़ा डायलेक्ट्स अलग अलग मिलेंगे, और उनका जो टोन है वो भी चीजों में मतलब अलग अलग, हिंदी में ही इतने अलग अलग डायलेक्ट्स हैं, ठीक है, उसी तरीके से बाकी और लैंग्वेजेस में भी इतने अलग अलग तरह के डायलेक्ट्स हैं, तो आप किसी को सुन के बता सकते हो कि ये पर्सन अगर हिंदी बोल रहा है तो पर ये कहाँ बिलोंग करता है, राइट? सो दैट्स वाई, बिकॉज so that's why there have been several demands. Now, what are the various steps? You need to also know what are the various steps that have been taken to promote regional languages by the education ministry, okay, and by the central government rather. The university level textbooks are being translated and published in all the 22 languages of each schedule. The government has taken several steps. The Commission of Scientific and Technical Terminology has been also established. Commission for Scientific and Technical Terminology, right? The National Translation Mission, we have NTM. The University Grants Commission, UCC to hai, and it promotes regional languages in higher education, right? And and they have also set establishment of center for endangered languages in central universities. तो central universities में ऐसा centers ऐसे establish किए गए हैं जो कि जो endangered languages हैं उनके बारे में या उनको preserve करने का काम करते हैं, because बहुत सारी ऐसी languages हैं, बहुत सारी ऐसी tribal कई, because there are so many tribes also in India, there are so many different cultures, so many different languages, वैसी कई सारी लैंग्वेज है जो कि धीरे धीरे खत्म हो रही है, ठीक है, तो उनको प्रिजर्व करने का काम भी सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने, इस मतलब जो सेंट्रल यूनिवर्सिटीज है उनके जो कुछ पर्टिकुलर डिपार्टमेंट्स हैं वो लोग ये करते हैं, ठीक है, कि उन 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 पर्टिकुलर लैंग्वेजेस में जो भी टेक्स्ट है, ठीक है, और उनके उनके टेक्स्ट को प्रिजर्व करना, जो भी लिटरेचर है, तो बहुत डिफरेंट तरीकों से ये काम चल रहा है, ठीक है. And currently there are 6 languages that enjoy classical status in India. So in India we can say that there are 6 classical languages, any very old languages. For example, we have Tamil. Tamil is considered one of the oldest languages, and of course Sanskrit as well. Sanskrit, Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, Malayalam, Odia. All the classical languages are listed in the 8th schedule of the constitution, right? The Ministry of Culture has also provided guidelines regarding classical languages, high antiquity of its early text, recorded history, a body of ancient literature, text, literary tradition in original and not borrowed, ठीक है, and so we have several steps that have been taken by the central government to preserve and promote regional languages, and also the languages that have not been recognized by the HCT, तो उनका भी promotion हो रहा है, right? So anyway, so I think the CLAT needs to be conducted in the regional languages also. See, I'll tell you, when it comes to law इंडिया में लॉ के साथ एक बहुत ही एलिटिस्ट एसोसिएशन रही है इंडिया में भी, and throughout the world also. So law has been quite an elitist, you can say, a subject, ठीक है, उसको बहुत पुराने टाइम में सिर्फ जो एलिट क्लास होता था उन्हीं उन्हीं को एक्सेस मिलता था लीगल एजुकेशन में, बिकॉज लीगल एजुकेशन इंग्लिश में होती थी, और वो इंग्लिश सबको ऑब्वियसली नहीं आती थी, सिर्फ सिर्फ जो एलिट क्लास था they were getting access to legal education, because जो हमारे laws थे, जो हमारे बेयर एक्ट्स थे, वो सब इंग्लिश में थे, आज भी हैं, ठीक है, हालांकि अब बेयर एक्ट्स तो रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस में भी आपको मिल जाएंगे, बट अभी भी जैसे एग्जाम्स कंडक्ट हो रहे हैं वो इंग्लिश में हो रहे हैं, बट अगर रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस में इन एग्जाम्स के प्रिपरेशन और इन एग्जाम्स के पेपर भी आने लगे, राइट, अभी भी इवन नाउ वी आर एम्फसाइजिंग ऑन स्पीकिंग इंग्लिश एंड राइटिंग इंग्लिश, बिकॉज स्टूडेंट्स हैव टू अपीयर इन इंग्लिश, ठीक है, तो इंग्लिश की प्रैक्टिस इसीलिए कराते हैं, बट अगर ये सब जो लॉ है, लॉ को अगर पूरा इंडियनाइज कर दिया जाए, इंडियन लॉ को या लीगल एजुकेशन को इंडियनाइज करना बहुत जरूरी है, ताकि कोने कोने तक लीगल एजुकेशन और जो लॉ लीगल एजुकेशन का जो इम्पोर्टेंस है, ठीक है, वो आ पाए, और वो सिर्फ एलिटिस्ट नेचर का ना रह पाए, और जो डिफरेंट कम्युनिटीज हैं उनमें भी लोग निकल के आए कि उनको वो लोग अपने कम्युनिटी को रिप्रेजेंट कर पाए। और दूसरा ये भी चीज है कि सबको, मुझे ऐसा लगता है, आई पर्सनली फील दैट लॉ इज समथिंग दैट एवरीवन शुड नो। तो क्या होगा कि अगर रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस में लॉज आ जाएंगे तो एटलीस्ट लोगों को, एक आम नागरिक को अपनी लॉज पता होंगे। सर आई थिंक दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। सो आई थिंक this even CLAT should be conducted in regional languages. All right. Okay then. Uh, right. So let's move ahead now. The next news item is decide cases on Senior Citizen Act within 1 month, High Court to Tribunal. So the Delhi High Court has recently stated कि अभी ये okay, we have a senior citizens law. ठीक है. What is the law related to protection of senior citizens? The name of the law is Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act of 2007. 2007 में ये लॉ आया था। ठीक है। इस लॉ में सेक्शन 7 में बात की गई है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ अ मेंटेनेंस ट्रिब्यूनल, यानी कि एक ट्रिब्यूनल सेटअप किया जाएगा कि जो भी ऐसे केसेस हैं जहाँ पे पेरेंट्स can claim maintenance from their children, yani ki senior citizens can claim maintenance from their children. In that cases wo maintenance tribunal unke jaldi speedy disposal of those cases. That's why maintenance tribunal was set up. And under section 15 constitution of appellate tribunal की बात करता है, यानी कि appellate tribunal was set up to ensure कि अगर कोई maintenance tribunal में ऐसा केस है जो कि अपील में जाता है to appellate tribunal, because right अपील में गया है, तो फिर appellate tribunal में भी फिर जल्दी cases जो अपील में आए हैं वो भी dispose हो पाए. And here the high court has basically directed the appellate tribunal set up under the senior, because appellate tribunal के बाद फिर वो high court जाते हैं cases, right? And all right, so let's see what is the constitutional framework regarding the senior citizens. ठीक है, so पहला तो बहुत ही basic, that is I think applicable overarching law you can say. ठीक है, article 21, right to life. It includes what? It includes the Supreme Court has said that right to dignity and health and shelter, right to dignity and health and shelter are statutory rights of elderly, and not just statutory, they are actually fundamental rights, constitutional as well as fundamental rights of the elderly. And this is, and all these three components are enshrined under the right to life. ठीक है, तो ये एक बहुत important article है. Of course this is part 3 of the Constitution of India, and this is a fundamental right. मैं जितनी बार भी ऐसे प्रोविजंस बताती हूँ, सो आई ऑलवेज ट्राई एंड रिपीट द इम्पोर्टेंट पार्ट, सो दैट जितनी बार आप सुनोगे यू कैन इजीली रिकॉल इट while by listening to it. Auditory learning skill. Okay, ठीक है. Then this was article 21. ठीक है, अब हमारे पास also have article, we also have one in DPSP, Directive Principle of State Policy. What does it say? Talks about article, just write it. Well, it is Directive Principle of State Policy. Sorry, Directive Principles of State Policy. इसमें भी you can see there are several articles. First is Article 38 of the DPSP. of the Constitution rather. Article 38 basically talks about states to secure social order for promotion of welfare of people, right? And then you can also see right to work and to public assistance in certain cases. Then we also have Article 46. Apart from Article 38, we have Article 46, which states promotion of educational and economic interests of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and other weaker sections. So, other weaker section may we actually include all the vulnerable sections of the society, which is women, children, and the elderlies, and also the differently abled, right? Then again, under Article 47, you have the duty of the state to raise the level of nutrition and standard of living to improve public health. Okay, that is also. And so you will see under DPSP also in different ways. You can see there are constitutional framework for protection of elderly stated as well. Okay, and then coming on to the international framework. What are the international? What is the international thing? Right. So there are several conferences by the United Nations on protection of elderlies. So and welfare of elderlies, right? ओके. अच्छा, ये जो लॉ है ये 2007 में आया था. दिस इज अ स्टैट्यूटरी फ्रेमवर्क, पार्ट ऑफ द स्टैट्यूटरी फ्रेमवर्क. दिस स्टेट्स बहुत सारे इश्यूज होते हैं, जैसे चैलेंजेस फेस करने पड़ते हैं जो भी सीनियर सिटीजन है उनको. देर आर केसेस जहाँ पे सीनियर सिटीजन आर अबैंडन्ड बाय फैमिली. सो अबैंडनमेंट, डेस्टिट्यूशन, होमलेसनेस, इनएबिलिटी टू एक्सेस क्वालिटी हेल्थ केयर, ठीक है, लो लेवल्स ऑफ इंस्टीट्यूशनल सपोर्ट, द लोनलीनेस, डिप्रेशन एसोसिएटेड विद सेपरेशन फ्रॉम द फैमिलीज. बहुत सारे ऐसे इश्यूज होते हैं जो कि सीनियर सिटीजन को फेस करने पड़ते हैं. एंड इसीलिए इट इज द ड्यूटी ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट टू एंश्योर दैट सीनियर सिटीजन आर बीइंग प्रोटेक्टेड. It is the duty of the state, and that's why that is why this law was uh, set up. This law, this legislation was basically brought forth. ठीक है. And अब हम बात कर लेते हैं इसमें क्या क्या चीजें हैं. पहले तो स्कीम्स जान लेते हैं. बहुत सारी स्कीम्स हैं. वी हैव अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस एक्ट एक इंदिरा गांधी नेशनल ओल्ड एज पेंशन स्कीम है. ठीक है. एंड वी ऑल्सो हैव द प्रधानमंत्री वाया वंदना योजना. एंड वी हैव इंटरनेशनल फ्रेमवर्क में अगर हम बात करें, सो इंटरनेशनल फ्रेमवर्क में वी हैव द मैड्रिड action plan, Madrid International Action Plan on Aging, right? And the plan is a resource for policy makers, suggesting ways for governments, non-governmental organizations, and other stakeholders to reorient the ways in which their societies perceive, interact with, and care for their older citizens. And about 2 billion people of the aged 60 and above so we will be by 2050 we will be having around 2 billion of our entire population will be aged 60 and above. So that's why we need frameworks for their protection. And I'll just give you a brief on ये जो law है ये किन points पे deal करता है. ठीक है. So the law is actually very important. It talks about maintenance of parents and senior citizens, application for maintenance. ठीक है. application कैसे file करनी है, all that, jurisdiction क्या होगा, procedure क्या होंगे, constitution of maintenance tribunal, summary procedure in case of inquiry, order for maintenance, right, and enforcement of order of maintenance. Then it also has provisions related to maintenance amount, award of interest, ठीक है, appellate tribunal and right to legal representation, very important. तो इस यहाँ पे आई, I will also include 39A because right to legal representation. ठीक है, मेंटेनेंस ऑफिसर प्रोवाइड किया जाता है कि ये मेंटेनेंस उनको प्रॉपरली मिले, so he manages all that. Establishment of old age homes भी, ये जो एक्ट है ये it also looks out for establishment of old age homes. Then medical support for senior citizens की भी बात करता है ये जो law है. Then measures for publicity awareness for welfare of senior citizens, authorities who may be specified for implementing the provisions of the act, transfer of property, in certain circumstances. And then एक्सपोजर ऑफेंसेस रिलेटेड, ये जो अगर अगर कोई भी चाइल्ड, अपने कोई भी पर्सन अपने सीनियर सिटीजन पेरेंट्स को अबैंडन कर देता है, राइट, तो उसमें ऑफेंस है. दिस इज एक्चुअली अ क्राइम अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस पर्टिकुलर लॉ, एंड इट इज द पर्सन विल बी हेल्ड क्रिमिनली लायबल इन सच इंस्टेंसेस. ठीक है, अंडर द एक्ट. तो उस एक्ट में ऑफेंसेस भी प्रॉपरली दे हैव बीन प्रोवाइडेड. एंड राइट, एंड सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की क्या पावर्स हैं, सिविल कोर्ट्स की क्या पावर्स हैं, एंड स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की क्या पावर्स एंड ड्यूटीज हैं. तो ये सारी इस पर्टिकुलर ये जो लॉ है उनकी बात करता है. ठीक है, सो दिस इज व्हाट द न्यूज आइटम्स ऑल अबाउट. All right, so we'll move ahead. The next is the National Commission on Minorities. The National Commission for Minorities. This is NCM team visits Arunachal to look at disputed site. Recently, the Delhi High Court. Okay, so I'll just talk about the NCM, now the National Commission for Minorities, because it is has been stated here. We'll not go into the news as such, but what is important for you to understand this particular authority. Okay. Now, in 1978, sorry, setting up of the Minorities Commission was envisaged by the Ministry of Home Affairs resolution, and in 1984, the Ministry of Welfare was created, which excluded linguistic minorities. See, uh, National Commission for Minorities Act आई थी 1992 में. ठीक है, the National Commission for Minorities Act was enacted in 1992, and the Minorities Commission became statutory body, and उसके अंडर एक statutory body establish करी गई थी, statutory body. ठीक है, which is called the NCM, or the National Commission on Minorities. ठीक है. And in 1993, the first statutory national commission was set up, and 5 religious communities were notified as minority communities. So, इस act के under 5 religious communities were notified as minority communities. कौन सी है, what are the different communities? So different religious communities like Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, and the Zoroastrians, or the Parsis, also known as the Parsis. Right, these were notified as minority communities. ठीक है, and okay, 2014 में Jains were also added here. So Jains are also part of the minority religious communities. ठीक है. अच्छा, minority, when we talk about minorities, तो अलग अलग type की minorities होती हैं. We have religious minorities, which has been stated here. Then we also have linguistic minorities. We also have ethnic minorities. ठीक है, so अलग अलग minorities होते हैं, right? Okay, so the National Commission on Minorities consists of chairperson and vice chairperson and 5 members, and all of them shall be amongst the minority communities, and a total of 7 persons to be nominated by the central government, and each member holds office for a period of 3 years from the date of assumption of office. ठीक है, क्या function है NCM का? it evaluates the progress of development of minorities. So minorities कितना develop कर रहे हैं, उनके development का जो progress है उसको evaluate करना. Then monitor the working of safeguards of minorities, monitoring the safeguards. ठीक है, safeguards जो constitutional safeguards हैं वो proper हैं कि नहीं हैं, and then ensure that the Prime Minister's 15-point program for the welfare of minorities is implemented and this program for minority communities are actually functioning. So to ensure that the government schemes यानी कि central government जो भी programs लेके आती है, central government initiatives are being implemented. Initiatives are being implemented, right? And making recommendations for the effective implementation of safeguards. So recommendations, and for the protection of interests of minorities. Then looking into specific complaints, जो भी specific complaints होती है उनको ध्यान में रख के, to resolve those complaints and to ensure that they are quickly resolved, and investigate matters of communal conflicts and riots. Investigation of matters related to communal riots and conflicts. All right. And 18th December, now this can be important for you from your static point of view. 18th December is celebrated every year as Minorities' Rights Day. Okay. This marks the adoption of the Declaration of Rights. Because, and why is it celebrated, sir? Because declaration of this particular, declaration on the rights of persons belonging to national, belonging to national, ethnic, religious, and linguistic minorities. This declaration was adopted by the United Nations in the year 1992. ठीक है, 1992 में ये declaration adopt हुआ था. India was a signatory and that's why we enacted the National Commission on Minorities Act in 1992, जिसके अंदर एक statutory body का गठन हुआ था, which was the National Commission for Minorities. ठीक है, और 18th December को हम National Minorities Day celebrate करते हैं because 18th December 1992 was the date on which this declaration was adopted. Okay, so I hope this is clear. The National Commission on Minorities Act defines minority as a community notified as such by the central government. So India में central government basically notify करती है as to which community is a minority or which is not. Article 15 and 16 deal with their constitutional framework related to minorities. Again, Article 25 Clause 1, Article 26 and 28 also deal with minorities, and provisions relate other provisions are Article 29, 30 and Article 350b of the Constitution of India. Right, the 7th Constitutional Amendment Act inserted the article for which provides for special officer for linguistic minorities appointed by the President of India. So this is Article 350b. You don't need to remember the articles, but yes, there are constitutional frameworks as well, right, in our constitution for with respect to minorities. Okay, so moving on to the next article, next news item, environmental law. Now this is related to green hydrogen. Okay, how Gujarat is working to become India's green hydrogen hub. Gujarat has set the ball rolling to become the country's green hydrogen manufacturing hub and retain its dominance over the industrial sector. The state has signed memorandum of understanding with several big corporates, including Reliance, Adani, and Torrent, which have pledged huge investments in green energy projects and have been allotted land for the same. Okay, this is and you see zero emission country under the nationally determined contributions NDCs. India has set a target of becoming net zero emission country by 2070. The country also aims to reduce its carbon emissions by 45% by 2030 and by sourcing 50% of its energy from renewable sources. Okay, as a state with a favorable policy regime and solid infrastructure base, Gujarat will be hub for green energy and its ecosystem, right? And the state is expecting around 10 lakh crore worth of investment in this new sector over the next 15 years. All right. So you can go ahead and read the entire article. Now we'll talk about the green hydrogen. What is green hydrogen? And what is the National Green Hydrogen Mission? So, so the National Green Hydrogen Mission is a program to incentivize commercial production of green hydrogen and make India a net exporter of the fuel. The mission will facilitate demand creation, production, utilization, and export of green hydrogen. Green hydrogen is basically a renewable source of energy, and and now India is making use of green hydrogen, right? So we have the National Green Hydrogen Mission. The mission will facilitate demand creation, production, utilization, and export of green hydrogen. Sub schemes. So we have strategic inventions for green hydrogen transition program, which will fund the domestic manufacturing of electrolyzers, production, production and produce green hydrogen. Right. The objective is to develop green hydrogen production capacity of at least 5 million metric ton. And what is the nodal agency here? Nodal agency, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Okay, this will help entail the decarbonization of the industrial, mobility, and energy sectors, reducing dependence on imported fossil fuels, right? And feedstock now. So hydrogen is basically the key industrial fuel that has a variety of applications, including production of ammonia or key fertilizer, steel refineries, electricity. Okay, all of the hydrogen manufactured now is the so-called black or brown hydrogen because they are produced from coal. But now hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe, but pure or elemental hydrogen is very scarce. It almost always exists in compounds like with oxygen or to form water. H2O banta hai, so that is a compound, right? And then but when electric current is passed through water, it splits it into elemental oxygen and hydrogen through electrolysis. And if the electricity used for this process comes from a renewable source like wind or solar, then the hydrogen thus produced is referred to as green hydrogen. Colors attached to hydrogen indicate the source of electricity used to derive the hydrogen molecule. For instance, if coal is used, it is referred to as brown hydrogen. Okay, so this is what is green hydrogen. All right. Okay, then we'll move on to the next news item. The next news item we will be discussing about the Special Marriages Act. Marriage, here this news item states, marriage can be solemnized online, says Kerala High Court. So now a wedding, a single judge of the division bench of the Allahabad High Court has affirmed the single judge's view that wedding under the Special Marriage Act can be solemnized online via video conferencing. Okay, and the bench, while answering a reference made by a single judge, observed that the Special Marriage Act should be construed with time in light for the Information Technology Act of 2000. Section 6 of the Information Technology Act, or Section 6 of the Special Marriages Act recognized the use of electronic records in government and its agencies. Now we'll talk about the SMA. Special, this is part of your family law. So, Special Marriage Act of 1954. Okay, this is SMA. So this act is an Indian law that provides legal framework for marriage of people belonging to different religions or castes. Okay, legal framework. So people who are belonging to different religions, different castes, different linguistics, things, different ethnicities, so on and so forth, can get legally married under a special marriage act, right? And it governs civil marriage where the state sanctions the marriage rather than the religion. So in here generally क्या होता है कि जैसे हिंदू लॉ है, मुस्लिम लॉ है, तो उसमें क्रिश्चियन लॉ हो गया, पारसी लॉ हो गया, उसमें क्या होता है जो रिलीजन होता है वो उनकी मैरिज को सैंक्शन करता है. In this case, in this particular act, जो भी marriages SMA के अंडर होती हैं, so the state sanctions those marriage. ठीक है. And the Indian system, where both civil and religious marriages are recognized, is similar to the laws in UK Marriage Act of 1949. The applicability of the act extends to all people of all faith, right, including Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, Jains, Sikh, Buddhist. Uh, recognition of marriage. The act provides for registration of marriages to give legal recognition to the marriage, and provides a number of legal benefits, protection to the couple. बहुत सारे benefits मिलते हैं इसमें, protection to the couple, and rights such as inheritance rights, succession rights, ठीक है, and social security benefit. Okay. And of course, the act also forbids polygamy and declares a marriage null and void if the party जिनकी भी शादी हो रही है, if their spouse, any of the party's spouse is living at the time of the marriage, then of course that marriage is considered null and void. So it prohibits polygamy. And राइट. तो इसमें इसमें क्या होता है, अच्छा, एज लिमिट अकॉर्डिंग टू द एक्ट इज 21 years for males and 18 for females. Obviously the central government has now revised it, so it is 21 years for females as well as males ठीक है, the minimum age of marriage. um, and of course so ये act में basically क्या होता है, let's say there are two people who are belonging to different castes or different religions and want to get married, so they can easily get married under the Special Marriages Act. Now under this act they will have to go to a district, they will have to first stay at a place जहाँ पे वो लोग शादी कर रहे हैं, उस जगह पे minimum 30 days के लिए रहना पड़ेगा. They will have to show कि they have lived there or stayed there for the past 30 days, and then they can file an application for गेटिंग अ डेट फॉर मैरिज. ठीक है, तो एक डेट मिलेगी, वो डेट कब मिलेगी, नेक्स्ट 30 डेज में उनको वो डेट मिलेगी. एंड उस 30 डेज के बीच में नोटिफाई किया जाएगा उनके जो उस पर्टिकुलर वो लोग जिस जगह को बिलोंग करते हैं वहाँ के डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को नोटिफाई किया जाएगा, उनकी फैमिलीज को नोटिफाई किया जाएगा कि इफ दे हैव एनी ऑब्जेक्शंस दे कैन कम, राइट. तो एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स उसके बाद अगर कोई ऑब्जेक्शन नहीं आता है देन दे विल बी मैरिड ऑन द डेट, जो भी डेट सेट हुई है. ठीक है, तो इसमें क्या होता है कि इस एक्ट में बहुत सारे इसीलिए क्रिटिसिजम्स भी हैं अंडर दिस एक्ट की. क्या होता है कि the lot of criticisms की because जो पार्टीज हैं, जो उनके पेरेंट्स हैं, लेट्स से उनकी जो फैमिली मेंबर्स हैं जो ऑलरेडी ऑब्जेक्ट कर रहे हैं, अगर इन केसेस वेयर देयर इज ऑलरेडी ऑब्जेक्शन देयर इन द मैरिजेस, तो उस केस में क्या होता है, जो पेरेंट्स या फैमिली मेंबर्स होते हैं दे कम एंड ऑफ कोर्स उनको पता चल जाता है, तो उसमें प्रिवेसी हैम्पर हो जाती है. जो कपल है उनकी प्रिवेसी पे डायरेक्ट इट्स वायलेशन ऑफ देयर प्रिवेसी. And then of course when the objection is raised by any of the parties, then the marriage is it becomes difficult to get married. एंड जनरली क्या होता है कि बहुत सारा हैरेसमेंट फेस करना पड़ता है ऐसे कपल्स को. So there is a because there is a lot of stigma attached around the special marriages act, or the people who get married under the SMA, and still till even today, and privacy concerns हैं, social stigma है, right? But we need to, of course, बहुत सारे amendments propose किए गए हैं because we need to streamline the process, right? So that it becomes easier for the couples to get married under the law. And we also need to raise awareness. Raising awareness is also very important under this particular law. ठीक है, तो ये सारे कुछ फीचर्स हैं एसएमए के. ठीक है, यू नीड टू नो फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑफ योर फैमिली लॉ कि स्पेशल मैरिज एक्ट है क्या एंड उसके कुछ स्पेशल फीचर्स क्या है. एंड ऑफ कोर्स एज द आर्टिकल द न्यूज आइटम ऑलरेडी स्टेटेड दैट सेक्शन 6 ऑफ द स्पेशल मैरिज एक्ट recognizes the use of electronic records in governments and its agencies. तो इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी एक्ट के बारे में भी बात की गई है. Okay, so the next news item is among the elite, the India's presidency of G20 gives its additional heft at the G7 summit to international public international law के point of view से. Now we need to understand here the word that has been used is non-proliferation treaty. Yeah, several it has been used here. So we'll talk about what is the non-proliferation treaty. Okay. The NPT is an international treaty. It is an international treaty whose objective is to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and weapons technology. It is more or less like a disarmament treaty. Okay, and weapons and prevent weapons technology. To foster peaceful uses of nuclear energy को foster करना. ठीक है, peaceful uses of nuclear energy. For example, France. ठीक है, now France has a lot of nuclear energy stored, and France uses that nuclear energy to electrify the entire country. ठीक है, तो that is one example of a peaceful use of nuclear energy, and this is the goal of disarmament. ठीक है, disarmament. The treaty was signed, ये जो treaty है, this was signed in 1968, and it was entered into force in 1970, and presently there are 191 member countries to the non-proliferation treaty, right? And India is not a member. Sadly, India is not a member because India ने propose किया था, and of course China had obstructed, and as regularly, because China vetoes all the propositions made by India. It requires the countries to give up any present or future plans to build nuclear weapons in return for access to peaceful uses of nuclear energy. It represents the only binding commitment in a multilateral treaty to the goal of disarmament by the nuclear weapon states. Nuclear weapon states parties under the NPT are defined as those that manufactured and exploded a nuclear weapon or other nuclear explosive devices बिफोर 1967. तो जैसे यूएस ने अटैक किया था ना, हिरोशिमा और नागासाकी पे अटैक किया था. सो द हिरोशिमा नागासाकी अटैक, एंड उसके बाद ही फिर जब वर्ल्ड वॉर खत्म हुई, एंड बहुत सारे, बिकॉज एनी न्यूक्लियर अटैक हैज लॉट ऑफ कॉन्सिक्वेंसेज, और वो तो उस टाइम के जो न्यूक्लियर बॉम्ब्स थे, आज के टाइम के दे आर मच मच मोर डेंजरस. सो अच्छा, अब इंडिया का स्टैंड क्या है, व्हाट इज इंडियाज टेक ऑन इट? India is one of the only 5 countries that did not sign the non-proliferation treaty. ठीक है, thus becoming part of a list that includes, तो और countries कौन सी हैं? पाकिस्तान, इसराइल, नॉर्थ कोरिया, साउथ सुडान. इन्होंने NPT साइन नहीं किया है, and India is also part of that list. India always considered the NPT as discriminatory and has refused to sign it. India has opposed the international treaties aimed at non-proliferation since they were selectively applicable to the non-nuclear powers and legitimized the monopoly of 5 nuclear weapons. तो इसमें क्या है? It's a nuclear power. तो और उस समय जब ये 1968 में just a second. So जब 1968 में जब ये treaty आई थी, at that time the power was at that time India was given so India could have signed, but उस time पे there was जब nuclear power होती है किसी country के पास, तो उस country के पास बहुत सारा heft आ जाता है, right? And at that time ये disbalance create हो रहा था, and which was opposed to by India, right? Now we'll just okay, there are certain some few news items that are remaining, right? Just okay, so the few news items, we'll go on to the next news item. The next news item is tracking SDG progress the Bhopal way. Now we need to know what are sustainable development goals. The sustainable development goals, ठीक है, SDGs क्या हैं? So development is one which meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And sustainable development goals के बारे में, this was the definition was given in 1987 only. And what are the 17, we have total 17 sustainable development goals. ठीक है, what are the sustainable development goals? We have different SDGs. So first, for example, we have first is to which targets poverty and hunger, right? Then of course there are several, you can go and read. For example, 13th is that which targets climate change. You will see 16 which targets crime and sort of it promotes peaceful organization, promotes access to justice. It promotes access to justice. 17 talks about global partnerships for furthering the goals, the objectives and aims of the goal. And this article basically states that Bhopal has become the first city in India to join the growing global movement on localization of sustainable development goals, following the release of its voluntary local review VLR. In 2015, the 193 member states of the United Nations adopted the 2030 agenda, right? And for sustainable development, which consists of 17 sustainable development goals, 169 targets for action on people, for a plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity, right? And so we have the voluntary national review, जो कि national level पे होता है, the United Nations high level political forum में जाता है. And then more recently we have voluntary local reviews also, city wise, ठीक है, as a means for driving and reporting local implementation of sustainable development goals at the subnational and city levels. India's progress. India has made commendable efforts towards adoption, localization, and achievement of SDGs, and Niti Aayog has played a very strong role in fulfilling those goals. And right, so you can go ahead and read the article. What you need to know is the sustainable development goals. What are those different goals, and कौन सी अलग अलग conferences हैं, all right? Okay, and I'll be sharing the notes as well on with respect to these particular concepts and issues that I'm discussing. Okay, then the final few the last two news items that we are going to cover are actually one and like they are both connected. So the first is Supreme Court back to its full strength of 34 as Chief Justice of India administers oath to two new judges. ठीक है, तो हम बात करेंगे सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया की. एंड जो नेक्स्ट आर्टिकल है, द लास्ट, दिस इज न्यूज आइटम, टॉक्स अबाउट इंडिपेंडेंस ऑफ सुप्रीम कोर्ट व्हिच इज इंटीग्रल टू द रूल ऑफ लॉ. ठीक है, सो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया, Supreme Court of India is a constitutional body, of course. It is Supreme Court is the apex judicial body in the country, and it is part of judiciary. So judiciary is one of the wings of the state. ठीक है, and Supreme Court of India is the highest judicial court and final court of appeal under the Constitution of India, highest constitutional court with the power of judicial review. So हमारे पास article 32 में power है judicial review की. So Supreme Court has the power of judicial review under Article 32 of the Constitution. In case there is a violation of fundamental rights, so the writ can be uh, then taken into consideration. Then India has a federal state. So because India has a federal structure as well, we have, ideally we have a quasi judicial, quasi federal ना स्ट्रक्चर, बट हमारे पास हमारे जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है उसमें बहुत सारे फेडरल फीचर्स हैं. एंड वन ऑफ द फीचर्स अंडर द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इज इंडिपेंडेंस ऑफ जुडिशरी. सो फेडरलिज्म से हमने क्या लिया है, दिस इज वन ऑफ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फीचर ऑफ फेडरलिज्म, इंडिपेंडेंस ऑफ जुडिशरी, राइट. And India is a federal state and has a single and unified judicial system. When we talk about the judiciary, it is single and unified judicial system with three tier structure. So Supreme Court hai, we have then high courts, and we have district courts. ठीक है. We also have tribunals. Tribunals भी हैं, quasi judicial bodies भी हैं. ठीक है. Quasi judicial bodies are also there. And Supreme Court was, so I'll be sharing the notes related to history, historical background क्या है Supreme Court का. historical background, Supreme Court सबसे पहले regulating act आई थी 1773 में. regulating act आई थी, ये ब्रिटिश ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी के ब्रिटिश राज के टाइम में ये सॉरी ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी के टाइम में ये एक्ट को लाया गया था, रेगुलेटिंग एक्ट. ठीक है. टू रेगुलेट द अफेयर्स ऑफ द ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी. एंड उसके अंदर सबसे पहले इस्टेब्लिश किया था सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ जुडिकेचर ऑफ कैलकाटा. ठीक है. एज अ कोर्ट ऑफ रिकॉर्ड विथ फुल पावर एंड अथॉरिटी. एंड